And the goal here is to go into what to do to combat it. What can you do to not be accused or not be guilty of fraud, of any of these 15 types of fraud? Okay. First, you got to know what they are. And so let me share with you how I know this is because I was falsely accused of fraud. And so I'm the only chiropractor in the United States that has beaten the United States government on fraud charges. In other words, I went to trial and beat them. So I know quite a bit about fraud and how they work and how deceptive they are. So anyway, and I will say this, and I didn't believe this until it actually happened, but I remember I hired a compliance officer. When I was raised, I was taught that, you just do the right thing. And so when I was falsely accused, I'm like, I didn't even know what they were talking about when they said, I'm like, what are they talking about? What did they say that I'm doing? I didn't even know what they said I was doing. And I said, well, I'll talk to them. I'll be glad to talk to them and go over whatever they want to go over. I was so naive. I was born in a Midwestern town of population 3,000. I'm just friendly. I'm like, well, I'll be glad to talk. Well, they wouldn't even talk to me. And, they're out. Here's the bottom line that you need to know is they get raises. If you don't know this, the FBI and DOJ and those people that'll fine you for fraud and crime and charge you with crimes, they get raises. Just like you keep statistics on dollar per visit, patient visits, patient retention, things like that. They keep their stats, and they get their stats on number of cases, number of convictions, and the amount of conviction. So it's a total scam. It's a negative feedback loop for us. It's a positive feedback loop for them. In other words, the more that they can get people convicted and the more jail time they can get, it looks better on their resume and they get raises. That's what I learned. And so they don't have any intentions on being, doing the right thing. I said, after I learned the process and dealing with them, I don't call them the U.S. Department of Justice anymore. They're called the U.S. Department of Conviction. They get bonuses and raises by nailing your ass. And you better get to be aware of it fast. And I was real naive to that. I remember when I hired a compliance officer and they told me that. I'm like, well, I thought she was a little nuts. I'm like, you sound like you're a little bit radical and nuts. No, she wasn't radical or nuts at all. They want to get you because when they get you, they get a nice bonus and raise with those statistics. And that means not only skirting the line, but going over the line. And I have plenty of areas where they went over that line to injustice. And that's a total different story on itself. But anyway, all this I was able to prove in court, and that's why I won. And they have a 97% conviction rate. So having said that, we know something about fraud. So let's go through some of these, and we want to go into how not to put yourself in a position, even accidentally. Many a times the doctors don't even know they're doing fraud. Okay, so let's go into these categories and go, okay, how do we handle each of these categories and stop any fraud allegations?